With John Boehner now officially re-elected to his third term as House Speaker, two questions remain for the lower chamber. Can Republican leadership unite an often fractured conference? And with 13 fewer seats to work with, what role will House Democrats play in setting the agenda? Joining me now, Democratic Congressman Dan Kildee of Michigan, one of the top-ranking Democrats in the House. So, Congressman Kildee, let's talk about the future for the House of Representatives. Now that Speaker Boehner has 246 Republicans, he can get to 218 in theory without any Democrats. Does that marginalize Democrats to the point where you either have to begin to compromise with the Republican agenda or just stand on the sidelines and watch them work?
Well, it shouldn't marginalize the voices of the minority. Our framers had a masterful system that allows the majority to govern, but the minority to have ability to have input. So I hope that this new majority in both bodies will give the Republicans, I guess, the freedom that they need to include us in the conversation to a much greater degree than they did even in the last Congress. The way the rules of the House have been used, been very difficult for our voices to be heard. So, you know, it remains to be seen. I hope the Speaker takes seriously the commitment that he made and will invite us to the conversation. I think there are many ideas that we share with the Republican members of Congress, and if we can focus on those things we agree on, then we actually can get some things done.
Well, let me ask you about a couple of items. This morning I was at the swearing-in for the Congressional Black Caucus, and the new Congressman Butterfield, who is the new chairman of the CBC, mentioned a couple of items that the CBC members would like to see brought to the floor. One of them was a fix to the Voting Rights Act. As we all know, the Supreme Court laid waste to a key section of the VRA, and there has been some bipartisan support for doing a fix, including Jim Sensenbrenner, your colleague on the Republican side. Do you see the possibility of that getting to the floor and passing?
I sure hope so. I mean, this is one of those issues that really ought not have a partisan delineation to it. So the question is whether we can move past what will likely be some initial theatrics on Keystone, on the Affordable Care Act, and then get to some of those issues like the Voting Rights Act or potentially even like a big infrastructure initiative, which everybody knows, Republicans and Democrats, knows that we have to do. But, you know, we'll see. I'm hoping that the momentary theatrics will soon be replaced by real legislation.
And Congressman, let's ask about one more. Let me ask you about one more issue, and that is Keystone. We've now heard indications from the White House that the White House would veto a Keystone bill as we believe it would be constructed now. But there has been some talk in the Senate of Democrats adding amendments to the bill that would make it, or essentially put Republicans on the spot for some more job programs that are focused on American jobs and that kind of thing. Could you see something like that happening in the House, where House Democrats might propose some amendments to create a more bipartisan Keystone bill that the White House might consider signing?
Well, it's possible, but it depends on what the vehicle bill looks like. If it is the bill that came before us last year that completely strips any responsibility of the company to adhere to environmental law and does not require them to pay into the pipeline, oil spill trust fund, that vehicle, I think, would not be one that we could support adding other efforts to. But obviously, the focus on Keystone has been about jobs. It won't create the kinds of jobs that a serious infrastructure bill would do. So I really think we need to focus our attention on getting serious and moving past Keystone and talking more about the real needs of the American people. And that's highways, that's rail, that's ports, you know, that's bridges. That's the kind of work that would really put people in America back on the job.
All right. Thank you very much, Congressman Dan Kildee. Appreciate it.
Thank you.